once again with new josh and new idea and new topic. In this present video, we'll be discussing with you the sensory process of auditory organ. Can you tell me what is the auditory sense organs? Yes, it is a very common and it's very plays a very important role in your sensation and your perception. If you, I know you have a couple of sensory organ that is your ears, which is in front of you. We'll be discussing what is sensory process, what is sensation, then what are the limits, sensory limits, then what is the range where we can hear the beautiful sounds, chirping of the beautiful birds. We can see all everything will be covering this video. So you are, I think you are ready to discuss with me the today's topic, that is sensory process auditory. What is the definition of what? It's a very funny thing that I'm asking definition of what. First is sensation, then sensory process. So what is sensation? Clear terms I'm telling, sensing the external or internal stimuli. External you means, outside your body. Internal means you're inside your body. The stimuli which is emanating from inside your body, that are known as internal stimuli. That is means you are sensed this stimuli, that is sensation. What is sensory process? The process of detection. Earlier in sensation it was sensing the external or internal stimuli. Whereas in sensory process, the process of detection of external and internal stimuli, and or you can call it through the activation of sense organs. That is sensory process. I love to discuss this topic with various students and my colleagues. That people get confused in what is sensory process. See, this is the activation of your sense organs. And you know what are the sense organs? Your eyes, your ears, your nose, your skin and your tongue. These are the sense organs. When they are activated by some external or internal stimuli, that is the sensory process. Let's discuss in little detail. Total are behavioral activities. All activities of human body, they results from the orders of brain. Means brain has to order for all these activities. And brain gets these inputs, information from where? Various sense organs. The sense organs are activated by stimuli from the internal or external environment. See, this is a whole process. You are getting the stimuli from internal and external environment. That stimuli are activating your sense organs. These sense organs providing the information to the brain, and the brain is ordering your muscles, all your organs, all your tissues and everything else to act in a particular way. Getting my point? How this everything is related? And this all, that is total activities, are collective efforts of your sense organs, neurons, tissues, muscles, bones, brain and mind. What all these parts, components, organs are doing is they help in receiving the information, they help in organizing the information, and finally help in interpreting the stimuli. And after that, that is manifestation of your behavior through your muscular movement or body movement or your body language. So this covers a little bit of your sensory process. In the ear, that is your sensory organ, the sensory receptors, there are specialized cells which are found inside the inner ear. We'll discussing in detail in the next topic, next video, when we discuss the structure and function of human ear. So at the end of that, before your auditory nerve, there are sensory receptors. There are specialized cells of sense organs. What they do is they transform external internal physical stimuli into electrochemical signals and these signals are known as neural impulses. These neural impulses travels via the various channels to specific brain centers for further processing. Happens in all sense organs. Every sense organs have its own receptors, specialized cells. What they do is they receive the physical stimuli and transforms or transduce that physical stimuli into the electrochemical signals, which we call it the neural impulses. These impulses then travel through the various nerves, that are specific bundle of neurons, and they carry that information to the specific brain centers for further processing and interpretation. And this whole process of converting physical stimuli into neural impulse is known as your sensory process. I think it is clear now. Now, as we are human beings, so we have certain limits, that is sensory limits. Sense organs too have certain limitations, such as eye cannot see beyond a visible spectrum of 380 to 780 nanometers, which I discussed in the previous video where we discussed the structure and function of human eye. Similarly, our ears cannot insense your brain. Ear can transform your physical stimuli into neural impulse, but our receptors are not capable enough to comprehend that neural impulse. So in that case, our ears cannot hear beyond 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz of frequency of sound. If a sound is less than 20 hertz or more than 20 hertz, our ears cannot hear. A stimulus should have a minimum value to initiate sensation, and the minimum value of a stimulus required to activate a given sensory system is known as absolute threshold or absolute limit. So we were telling absolute threshold, absolute limit. This is the sensory limits. Beyond that, this much information is required to activate our sensory system, minimum requirement. Less than that, if that activation of our sense organs is not possible if the value of the stimulus is less than this absolute threshold or absolute limit. So you must remember that. You can explain you, suppose you are, take an example of sweetness of an water. If you keep adding something sweet item in your glass of water, you take it as sugar. If you just add one granule of sugar in the glass of water, you won't be able to sense the sweetness of the sugar. If you keep on adding these one and one extra granules of sugar, after a certain point, you will be able to taste the sweetness of the water. So at that level, this is a very crude explanation. We call it the absolute threshold of your taste sense organ, your tongue. Getting my point? So once again I repeat it, the minimum value of a stimulus required to activate a given sensory system is known as absolute threshold or absolute limit. To differentiate between T stimuli, see, that was absolute threshold, there should be some minimum difference between the values of the two stimuli, because we have to differentiate between two stimuli, and for that there should be a minimum difference. The smallest difference in the value of a two stimuli that is necessary to notice them as different is called difference threshold or difference limit. It is also known as J&D, just noticeable difference. So here you can see this is a vase, or you call it a glass. Here, can you differentiate between the color of this? Yes, you are right. Here it is little darker, it is little brighter. So this is the minimum difference, or you call it a just noticeable difference between two stimuli. The light is reflecting from both the parts of this item, and it is when it's entering in our eyes and when our brain is interpreting this information, brain is telling that this part is a little bit darker relative to this part. So to differentiate between these two stimuli, we need to have a minimum value between them, and that is known as difference threshold, differential threshold, difference limit, or just noticeable difference. This is applicable even in your for your sound also, for your taste also, for your touch also, all the sense organs. So you could get me what is absolute threshold and what is differential threshold or just noticeable difference. That is the different thing. This is the part of psychophysics, and we must know these are the sensory limits, comes under the sensory. We'll just in a quick discussion we'll do what is auditory sensory process. So you could be guessing what is there written on this new slide that we're going to come here. You can see this sound is emanating from these two beautiful lips and traveling via some medium, that is air, and these sound waves are shown to travel to your ear, and this is the outer part of ear that is known as a pinna, that collects that sound waves and transports them to their required channels. We'll be discussing that point in our next video. But right now, our topic is auditory sensory process. It is here in front of you, dear friends. You know what the speed of sound? Correct, it is 343 meter per second in dry air at 20 degrees centigrade or almost 1100 feet per second. You know the sound of speed of sound is known as 1 Mach when you calculate in the hours. So sound is the chief component that activates the ear and its hearing organs, which initiates the auditory sensation. So sound is the first and the important component, not important, the only component that initiates the auditory sensation. And the auditory sensation provides spatial information, orient an individual towards an object, and helps in verbal communication. See, your auditory sensory system has almost more than 3 functions, but we will discuss only 3 major functions here. It provides spatial information. Coming from spatial information means the sound is coming from which object and the relative position of the object in the space. Sound helps in detecting this. Means your auditory sensation is very important here. That defines the relative position of the object that is producing the sound. Then is orient individual towards an object. Means we are able to detect the direction of this sound. And who is responsible for that? That is your ear. Auditory sensory system can help an individual orienting towards an object that is producing this sound. You know, if sound is coming from the left side, you just turn your head towards the left. If it's coming from the right side, again you can turn your head towards the right, sometimes back, front. There is a difference between how we can orient towards the sound that is coming from which side. And the third major role is what sound auditory sensation provides is this verbal communication. Okay, sound is the physical stimulus. See, here it is a physical stimulus, which is produced by the vibration of air molecules. Now I am talking to you. Your sound is coming from your speakers of your either laptop or mobile phone, or sometimes your headphone. These traveling through a medium, traveling through air, and these air molecules vibrates, and they transfer that energy from one molecule to another, and that is reaching to your ear. So this is the whole process how sound travels. In this auditory sensory process or any sensory process, the basic function of your sensory organs is, I told you dear friends, converting or transducing or transforming the physical stimuli into the electrochemical signals which we call it the nerve impulses. This is the basic, this is the only role of your sensory organs. Means converting physical stimuli to the electrochemical signals or neural impulses. So sound have three important psychological properties or characteristics. See, I am telling here psychological properties. So what are that? Your pitch, frequency or wavelength, volume, we call it amplitude of your waves, timbre, richness in the tone, that is saturation or purity. Let us discuss it one by one. It's a blank slide. Okay, you know that I have given some animation to make it beautiful. So let us see what is loudness or volume. We call it measure through the amplitude of the wave. See, this is your sound wave. Getting my point? This is your another sound wave, that is dotted line. From top part of this, you call it the amplitude. There is a crest to the crest of the second wave. Here, from here to here, we call the wavelength, length of the one wave. After that, it repeats the same process. And this is amplitude from the central part, that is the normal part, from normal part to the crest. This is the top part. This is known as your amplitude. The amplitude of this wave is larger than the amplitude of this wave. In this sense, so the sound of this wave, your sound produced by this wave have more volume or larger volume, or it is louder. This means if we produce sound with this type of two waves, so we are going to hear this sound first because it is louder as compared to this sound. Getting my point? So this is known as your loudness or volume. How we define the loudness or volume of a sound wave? It is determined by the amplitude of sound wave. Larger the amplitude, louder the sound, and this is measured in decibels. This is a unit of measurement of your loudness or volumes. I think it's clear to you. Next, that is pitch. Pitch means frequency or wavelength. I told you the wavelength. See, what is the wavelength of this sound? This is from this crest one point to this point. This is the wavelength of the sound. So, from these two diagrams, you can clearly make out which sound produced by these waves or sound produced by these waves has higher pitch. Obviously, it is this part because it has larger frequency, means in the same time the wave is vibrating little faster. This means the pitch is higher. Highness or lowness of a sound, when the sound is very high or very low, we understand that aspect in terms of frequency or wavelength, or we technically or psychologically we call it the pitch. You know, the higher the frequency, if the frequency is higher, as in this case, higher the pitch. And you know, sometimes you call the sound of the particular individual or that particular girl or boy is irritating to your ears. What is that indicates? The pitch of that particular sound is a little higher, and that is highness of that sound. I am trying to make you understand clearly difference between your volume and pitch. Volume means loudness, or pitch means highness or lowness of sound. The difference between that. And you know, in Indian classical music, we have 7 notes: sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni. These are the 7 notes. Indian classical music, which represents the gradual increase in the pitch. Means sa, re, ga. This means this is. See, I'm not a good singer. You may be smiling by hearing my this rough sound, but I can try. So these notes have gradual increase in the pitch. Now you can understand what is pitch. Thus, timbre or timber. You as you could, because I belongs to a country where I don't have English as my mother tongue, but I'm trying my best to pronounce these words correctly. If there is something uh, variance in that pronunciation, I seek apology and sorry for dear friends. So it is timbre or saturation or purity of the sound, the richness in the tone of sound or nature or quality of sound. It reflects the complexity of sound waves. So means what the richness in the tone of sound. What is that? Higher the this is richness, the saturation will be higher, and the purity of the sound will be higher. See, if you use a folk, this is the sound waves. If flute, this is the sound waves. Voice is the sound waves, and violin the sound waves. So richness of the tone of the sound is known as timbre, or we can say the saturation. As clearly, obviously, the saturation of this violin sound is more. This timbre is more. So, dear friends, next, and what is references? You can always cross check my material from where I take to collect these materials. I add myself some information from myself too, and you can see there are two beautiful Indian classical instruments that are used to produce different and beautiful mesmerizing sound. Dear friends, know what is our next video. I am sure you can guess by seeing this diagram what will be our next video. So without waiting or taking your much time, I let you know, dear friends, it is structure and function of your human ear. So we'll be discussing by the time. Thank you. We'll meet you soon with the next video. And if you have any doubt, anything, you can write in my comment box, or you can email at varmasujit@yahoo.com. Or if you like this video, share with your friends. If you dislike it, share with me. I'll happy to receive your comments once again, dear friends. Thank you from the deepest part of my heart for watching this video.